You see them all the time online. Viral videos that make a really bold political argument designed to get a huge reaction. So today, we're going to peel back the layers on one of these arguments. Our goal isn't to prove it right or wrong, but to actually deconstruct how it's built, piece by piece. Let's dive in. Right out of the gate, the video makes its central point crystal clear with this statement. It doesn't beat around the bush. It frames the entire conversation around one single idea, that a specific political party has a monopoly on corruption. And that is the core claim we're going to unpack. So where does this whole thing start? Well, the jumping off point for this entire argument is one specific viral clip from the Joe Rogan podcast. The source presents this as more than just a conversation. It's framed as an awakening. You know, the moment a huge mainstream voice supposedly stumbles onto a hidden truth. The video really frames this as a red pill moment, this idea that a single piece of information can suddenly unlock a much bigger hidden reality. So what's the concept that Rogan is supposedly discovering here? The whole argument hangs on this one big idea: pattern recognition. The video is arguing that the events it's about to show you aren't just isolated incidents. No, they're data points. They're dots that, when you connect them, are meant to reveal a very clear pattern of behavior. This is the lens for everything that follows. Okay, so the first pillar of the argument zeroes in on the election process itself. And to build its case, the video starts right where the Rogan podcast did, with one specific incident. The whole conversation on that podcast really centers on this one number: 315,000. That's how many early vote ballots in Fulton County, Georgia, were flagged for a procedural violation, specifically a failure to get required signatures from poll workers on tabulator tapes, which the video is very clear to describe as a violation of state law. Now, what the commentary really wants you to notice is just how consistent this was. We're not talking about a few precincts here and there. Out of 37 advanced voting locations in the entire county, 36 of them had this exact same issue. And it's that near total consistency, that 36 out of 37, that's presented as the big red flag. And this is what the commentary video holds up as that red pill moment. Rogan points out that these 36 precincts just so happen to be overwhelmingly Democratic. That's presented as the instant the pattern supposedly clicks into place, directly linking all those procedural errors to one political party. So from that one specific case in Georgia, the video zooms out to argue this is happening all over the country. It presents Fulton County not as some kind of outlier, but as just one piece of a much larger trend. It brings up other high-profile cases of alleged fraud in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Minnesota. And, of course, attributes them all to Democrats to really hammer home that idea of a pattern. Now, the video does something pretty smart here. It tries to get ahead of a potential criticism. It brings up this story about a program at X, formerly Twitter. It anticipates that people might say, well, that program was just a partisan tool to attack Democrats. The video's rebuttal is no, the program itself was neutral. It just so happened that the fraud it uncovered was, in its view, almost all linked to Democratic groups. All right, so after laying out the case on election integrity, the argument pivots. It shifts gears to financial misconduct, contending that the very same pattern of one-sided corruption it claims to have found in elections, well, it also exists when it comes to your taxpayer money. And the claim here isn't small. I mean, it's incredibly broad. The video asserts that when you look at all forms of financial misconduct involving public funds, everything from simple fraud to complex laundering schemes, the Democratic Party holds what it calls a near monopoly. So to try and back up this massive claim, the video points to a few recent high-profile examples involving Democratic politicians. These specific cases of alleged corruption, from Florida to Texas to Illinois, are then used as the proof for its much bigger thesis about systemic, one-sided financial misconduct. So a natural question is, if this pattern is supposedly happening, how does it keep going? Well, the video has a theory for that, which it calls the Big Blue Machine. Basically, an underlying system that it claims enables and protects all of this alleged corruption. And this slide really breaks down the logic they present. It goes something like this. The push for bigger government and more programs, that creates more middlemen. More middlemen create more excuses when things go wrong. And all of that leads to less accountability and less direct oversight. The video argues that this combination creates the perfect storm for fraud to thrive. And according to the video, there's one last piece to this whole systemic puzzle. the media's role. The claim here is that mainstream outlets are complicit, that they're deliberately ignoring major fraud schemes, like the one alleged in Minnesota, and by doing so, they allow this so-called machine to operate without any real public scrutiny. Okay, so when you put it all together, from the initial Rogan clip to the examples of alleged fraud to the theory of the machine, the argument is built to lead you to one powerful conclusion. None of this is a coincidence. Instead, it's all part of a clear pattern that points in only one direction. And this final quote really drives that point home. It brings everything full circle, right back to that Joe Rogan moment, and it asserts that his observation was dead on, that he wasn't just imagining things, he was simply recognizing a clear, identifiable, and exclusively one-sided pattern. And that really leaves us with a pretty critical question to think about. The video's entire argument is built on the idea of pattern recognition. But this highlights a real challenge for all of us. When are we truly identifying a pattern, and when are we just finding evidence that confirms what we already believe? That's something called confirmation bias. It's a fine line to walk for sure. Thanks for watching.